Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Podcast the Musical. Podcast the Musical, a podcast where we look at the shows you know and the characters you love, and then talk about that moment when they sang. It's something that we love to talk about, and we hope you love to listen to. I'm Josh. I'm one of the hosts for this show, and over there across the Atlantic or Pacific, depending on which direction you go, is
Kayla. And guess what?
What?
Today we have a special guest, and this is John.
Hello.
And guess what?
This is
another
my
thing.
radio voice.
Oh, this is not John's normal voice. And guess what?
What?
Ow!
I punched him because we're together.
I felt like after I was punched, I should have said something. So I spit the ice out of my mouth, and I was like, "Oh, that was painful."
I did it at an inopportune moment. I'm in Wichita, which means I'm with cool people.
Awesome.
One of which is John Cheek. John, what do you do in Wichita?
I am a mechanical engineer and work at an aerospace company making interiors for BE craft.
And what is your life's ambition?
Life's ambition is to own my own business.
Yeah!
And work out of my garage and make zero money.
That's a strange ambition.
It is. But
we'll get you there someday, don't
my
worry.
wife will be rich, so it'll be okay.
No, you want to net zero money.
Net zero money, so I pay zero taxes.
Well, good luck.
Exactly.
We can talk more about that when we plug. You can plug
Yeah.
some things.
We can talk about that later. Today, we're talking about Star Trek Voyager, an episode on Star Trek Voyager titled Virtuoso, Season 6, Episode 13. Well, let's just go around the table. John, what's your experience with Star Trek Voyager? Like, the series as a whole?
Sure. I mean, I've run through all of the Star Trek series on Netflix, and overall, I would say this one's really starting the Doctor, so he sort of gets his moment in the sun with it, but I don't know what else.
You're a big fan.
I'm a big fan, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Kayla, do you know anything about Voyager or Star Trek or...
Voyager I'm not familiar with. I'm a little familiar with TNG. Sorry, for those uninitiated, that's the next generation. But my dad was always into it when it was on TV, that whatever iteration was on at the time. So
Right.
I always kind of watched when he watched. And I actually watched this episode with him because it's Father's Day today. So that was fun. And he was telling me about the Borg, which I wasn't familiar with, but it sounds cool. So that's my experience. Yeah, kind of like experience by proximity. So
Yeah,
that's. Go ahead, Josh. What's yours?
Okay. Well, I was just going to say that's my experience with my initial experience with Star Trek TNG. I watched it when my parents watched it, and when it was on late at night in syndication on UPN or whatever, and really liked it. Spike.
Spike TV
not that
during the summer. It came on at 3:00 in the afternoon. Caught a lot of TNG then.
Well, as I've said before, I've never had cable, so I had to wait until it came out on Netflix before I actually went and watched through everything. But I've seen Star Trek Voyager probably the entire series maybe 3 times. I really like it a lot. It's one of my favorites.
Is that your favorite one?
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorites. I love TNG for different reasons, but Voyager, I really enjoy the characters a lot. Some of the acting is really cheesy, and some of the situations really cheesy as well. But the characters themselves, I really enjoy.
I want to say this was my first episode of Voyager that I have watched, and I thought the acting was better in Voyager than TNG.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Hands down.
Okay.
But I actually, Josh, before we get into it, I have the Netflix synopsis written down. You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Read it in a weird voice.
Okay, the synopsis of this episode via Netflix. A weird voice?
I'm sorry, don't mean to put you on
Oh,
the
you
spot.
do it, John.
Oh my goodness.
In your radio voice.
I don't read well. Let's see. One species so appreciated by the Doctor's singing talent that he considers resigning his commission and staying on with millions of his adoring fans. That wasn't that weird. Read it in a really Bad French accent.
One species.
All right, that's gold. That's gold. Cut and print.
Yep.
That was awesome.
Good.
I could tell you were like, okay, a bad French accent. I could tell, like, the gears moving through your head was like, okay, bad French accent. That's stereotypical. That's kind of racist. I'll do like midway. Go halfway between a good French accent and halfway between a bad French accent. Here we go. And then you start and you're like, dang, that's still kind of a bad French accent. But maybe this vowel is really good. And then you just quit.
Yeah, that's how it was. So, yeah, basically, Doctor becomes famous for singing with this species that's never encountered singing before.
Never encountered music at all before.
Yeah.
Right.
I like this episode.
Me too.
We can just jump right into it.
Go.
So basically, a little backstory on Voyager. The Doctor is, I think literally, but also very much in his own mind, in his own opinion, underappreciated. He performs a very important function on the ship, but he's still a piece of technology. And this is still very early on in the kind of like sentient AI era of the human race that they go through a lot, especially in the first couple of seasons, where he's basically a glorified piece of technology. There's a lot of stuff back in, like, referring to him as a complicated tricorder or whatever. And so It's really, really interesting to see his character grow and push through that and become a very, very good character on his own. But this episode really allows him to take one of the things that he values, that he thinks is important. Being a medical professional and a machine, basically, a piece of machinery or data within a machine, he really has this inflated sense and love of the arts. Music especially, but also painting and theater and stuff like that. So it's really interesting to see him kind of get to take a central role and be put on display in front of all these people and who appreciate his talents, but kind of in the wrong way. Like they appreciate what he's doing, but not why he's doing it or what it really even is. They see it as an abstract display of mathematics, basically.
Yeah, but he doesn't think that at first, which is why it's so interesting, the conversation between him and the captain about, you don't see me as an equal, you just see me as a piece of technology. These people see me, for what I really am. And then he finds out that that's actually not true.
It's exactly wrong.
So well done. Loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really takes on the Data role. Data being the person from TNG, not
right.
Data.
Not data. Yeah.
Right.
But they go through this whole permutation of, like, the Doctor is underappreciated, but he also has this inflated sense of ego.
Yeah, he's quick to jump in, like, yeah, I'll be your star.
Yeah.
Like, the very first eyebrow raise is, like, very sudden.
Yeah, and I think it's a part of a defense mechanism. So it's like, if no one appreciates me, and I value my own talents, which is great, but other people aren't valuing them as much as me, and so he goes through this, like, psychological push to kind of protect himself from that obscurity or thinking people look down on him for it. And then the first hint of appreciation, he jumps at that and moves toward it and embraces it wholeheartedly without realizing that he's embracing something false, that they don't appreciate him for him. They appreciate the programming that specifically went into make him do the things that he does. And it's always a reoccurring theme of him pushing beyond his programming, basically, that he's more than the sum of what has been written into his code.
How interesting.
Yeah, it's really awesome. The Doctor is definitely one of my favorite characters throughout the entire series.
When do we get to talk about the fact that all of Star Trek doesn't handle technology well?
Yeah.
Because we've got the Doctor, and then in the very first 2 minutes, he's being made fun of and talked down to by this other race because they assume him primitive. But then when they find him fascinating, they don't just immediately copy him off and make a second one. Like, it took only one person a week to figure out, hey, we could duplicate this guy.
And I love when they're describing, like, when they first hear him sing, and they're trying to figure out what it is. The way they try and figure it out is like, let's just throw math words at this. Like, is it algorithm? Is it fractals? Math words!
I know. It's really funny. I read one of Will Wheaton's books, and he talks about how in the script sometimes the writers would just write, like, they'd write the dialogue or whatever, and whenever they needed something like that, they wrote in, like, parentheses, science gobbledygook, or something like that. And then, like,
yeah, you can kind of tell.
The science team or whatever.
I mean, it's, like, almost as bad as CSI.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it actually has redeeming value. Yeah, they do a lot of weird stuff with science, and you have to. Like, you just have to. I mean, nobody, like, wouldn't have as many episodes of Star Trek as we do.
You know, that's like what, that guy, Josh Whedon, always to serve the story. And he really doesn't care when people get pissed about, like, the science is bad. Because he's like, well, that's not the point. The point is the story, and the science is there to tell the story.
Right, if you want to...
So, story comes first, science is the frame.
I have a big problem with that.
Well, you gotta, I mean, it's...
Because the story has to make sense.
Right, and I think from his perspective, it still does make sense because the science... It just has to work enough for the rest to not to matter. So he doesn't go as far as you want with the working for it to work.
Yes, I can take some hand waving and saying, you know, we're not going to explain this or this, but if you try to explain something, anything that you say needs to be sound. Or it's going to pull me out of it. I'm going to stop listening to your story. And be like, oh, well, wait, that's not even how that works. So
I got that way in the last Avengers movie with non-native English speakers speaking English to each other when native English speakers aren't around.
I'm totally cool with that, because then I don't have to read anything.
I hate that.
I don't want to read subtitles.
I hate that so much.
I do too.
Reading subtitles is not hard.
It's great.
It's not
it's
difficult.
But I feel like we each have our personal things that, like, takes us out of the story. For me, it's that. For you, it's weird, wrong technology words.
Yeah.
So sometimes we get weird technology here. John was talking about how they don't have a binary system, they have a tertiary system.
Trinary.
Tertiary is not the word. They have a trinary system, which is, I guess, a 1, 0, and a 2. I don't know. Yeah.
It doesn't really make much sense, but they were talking about being bombarded with fan mail from the Doctor.
Right.
Or to the Doctor, I should say. And the amount that was coming in, 7 of 9 said, was millions of tetraquads.
Wasn't it tetraquads? They like the word tetraquad.
Tetraquads. You're right, tetraquad.
You wrote it down, didn't you, Josh?
No. I've seen that much Star Trek. They love the word tetraquad.
Yeah. I looked it up, and apparently the quad is essentially the byte in their system. And you'd have a bunch of... there was a program that the Doctor was based on, the Mark 1, the emergency program Mark 1. That was 50 billion... What was the gigaquads? 50 billion gigaquads. And so they're just really just making this stuff up. None of it goes along with each other. And it's difficult to say from one show to the next how much... you can't compare the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
But they don't care. I mean, it's just a big number. Like, when a big number is called for, let's just say millions of tetraquads.
They should just say a really big amount is coming through then.
Oh, that doesn't sound specific enough. It makes
Well, if you want to be specific, then be specific. Don't just make things up. This is my problem.
All right, well, we'll get into that.
We won't. In fact, we're going to move on.
This is great podcasting.
We're going to move on to... So basically what happens in the show is people love his singing, and what I find hilarious is initially they love his singing of I've Been Working on the Railroad.
Right.
Which is a dumb song, but it's also, I thought, really funny.
No.
Yeah, it's a dumb song.
It's a rhythmic folk song to help you work on the railroad.
Right.
Not dumb.
I think it's dumb.
Don't.
I do.
You're not allowed.
Well, too bad. But what I did like is that it's an expression of mundane, monotonous, repetitive work and fighting through the feelings of that, and like while he's having to deal with these annoying people. Like he's working while he's having to deal with these annoying people, and I thought that was really funny. And so then they hear him singing, they're like, "What's that?" He's like, he holds up a hyperspray, and he's like, "It's a hyperspray." He's like, "No, that thing you're doing with your mouth." I'm like, "Oh, singing? It's music, it's singing." And so then he has to explain music and singing, which is really, it's an interesting thing to think about a society that's evolved without the expression of music as a
or art in any kind.
Yeah.
That's not true. Because they knew what entertainment was.
And recreation.
Right. It sounded very Scott Adams in the fact that there was a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a culture that invented everything except the wheel.
Right.
So it just didn't make sense to me that you would have a culture that had art and entertainment and everything, but didn't make something with their mouth.
Well, it could be that they don't actually have art or expression, but they observe it in other species, and so they're cognizant of it. They understand that it exists, but they haven't come across any music.
Okay.
Right. And I think you meant Douglas Adams. I think Scott Adams is the Dilbert guy.
Oh, yes. So I'll say the word again, and then you can just cut that and paste it in the right spot. Douglas Adams. There you go. Make me sound smart, Josh.
So and that's one thing that's interesting to me, and I agree with you. It feels like it's a society that's built itself without a major part, you know? Mm-hmm. And maybe physically they're not, like, we never hear them sing or even attempt to sing. The only thing we see is them recreating a singing hologram.
Well, okay. But physiologically, like, if you talk, you can sing.
I mean, maybe there's something in their brain chemistry that you know, like when you hear about people who
then
have...
it would be in the brain.
Right.
But, like...
You have people...
If you have a vocal tract that can talk, you have a vocal tract that can sing.
Sure, but I mean, there are people that are tone deaf and can't you know, reconcile different tones.
Yeah, there are people that, I mean, maybe they all sing poorly, but they could sustain a note.
Yeah. But again, we're looking at this from the aspect of human physiology and knowledge, and that's one of the things that I really like about Star Trek is some of the times it's like, no, you really have to suspend your disbelief that this species or whatever is completely different. And a lot of the time that falls by the wayside because, you know, 90% of the species that they meet, just by way of budgetary restrictions, look human with just a little weird thing on their ears or their forehead, because it would be way too expensive to CGI every single species that you come in contact with. But I like that suspension of disbelief on some occasions where it's like they may literally have something completely different with them that allows them to not even recognize tone differently.
But they can, though, because they recognize his singing.
Yeah, and they broke it down into fractals.
Fractals.
All right, and maybe they're one of the people with like synesthesia, and they see in math, and maybe the math was interesting. Like it's going back to the the thing of suspension of disbelief. That maybe they are just literally completely different, and their scope of understanding doesn't even touch it. And that's one of the things I like about Star Trek is they're constantly trying to find those points and make them interesting. And then he becomes their or they want to hear him talk, and so they put on a little recital, and he sings something from Don Carlo, Dio c'è nell'alma infodere, from Don Carlo, but written by Verdi, and it's great, and he's really good.
Is it him?
Oh yes,
that's what I was going to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's him.
It is?
Yeah.
Was it him at the end?
Yes. Oh, you mean when they did the weird thing?
No.
Oh,
before that, when he sings his final.
Yeah, when he sings. What is it? I've got it here. Yeah, Rondine al Nido. Yeah, that's him.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He has a beautiful voice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're gonna get to that. Before this, however, the leader of the Kumar, that guy in like the white costume or whatever.
Yep.
Do you guys know who that is?
No.
He's been in a lot of
Josh?
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff. Nothing off the top of my head. Why? Go ahead and say.
It's Paul Williams, who's a movie music composer.
Oh,
a
yeah.
very famous movie music composer.
Huh.
He composed Raindrops Keep Falling Off My Head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just really liked that they cast a music composer in this role of this leader of a people who don't know anything about music but are fascinated by it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I think that's really real smart. I like it.
So,
I like when that happens. Like when, like in Social Network, when they cast Justin Timberlake as the Napster guy, the guy who's stealing music from artists, they cast an artist.
right.
I loved that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he goes on to he sings his little thing from Don Carlo, and then Harry Kim and the Kim Tones come on to play
Yes.
a super chill version of that old Black Magic, and they hate it. They're like,
Yeah,
What?
that's so sad.
yeah, I don't
understand that.
I don't either. I don't understand what it is with them that allows them to love music or singing, but not music. And
the story that we need to like
Yeah.
dig into the doctor.
Right.
right. So then the doctor goes up and saves them by telling them to pick up the pace, and he sings a great rendition of that old Black Magic. I loved it. And then they want to put on a big performance for their whole planet, and they build an opera hall. They
Seats about 100.
yeah.
Budgetary restrictions on the show.
Right. They recreate the Teatro della Scala. That's where Pavarotti performed Don Carlo, and it's a gorgeous opera hall. It's beautiful.
Oh wow.
And seats way more than 100 people.
Getting real highbrow up here.
Oh man, I'm actually like I was looking around seeing if I could find some different ways to watch opera online.
Well, do you remember when we had that podcast and I talked about the Venn diagram of people that listen to operas and the Venn diagram of people that listen to the podcast?
Yeah,
and they were two separate circles.
Yeah, they don't intersect. So maybe I should move on. Oh no, John, actually, I'm looking at the wiki, and it does say tetraquads. Millions of tetraquads of irrelevant information.
And they don't have a word for anything that... Like, they have to say millions of tetraquads.
Well,
they
they-
haven't thought of another word to group the tetraquads better.
They do have petaquads and exoquads they've used in other places, but they wanted to say the word millions, so they just shove it in there.
Can we talk about, before he performs, his costume?
Sure.
He looks like... I know it's probably a callback to something, or like a reference to something. It made me think of a court jester for Queen Elsa.
It is a famous costume. If you think of Seinfeld, did you ever see the episode where they went to see the opera and the guy in the clown costume like that was trying to
that's Rigoletto.
kill? Yeah.
Oh.
So I was just trying to draw back to something that our listeners would probably...
Seinfeld, you
Yeah.
know...
Ah,
You
gotcha.
know, you people who aren't high cultured, let's go down to the base. Seinfeld.
There you go.
Or we can go with, it's Rigoletto. It's the sad clown. It's the crying clown of Rigoletto. Like if you go to, what's that movie? The Untouchables, where Al Capone goes to the theater and he's watching Rigoletto and he's got the crying clown or whatever. That's another thing. So yeah, he was dressed as the sad clown. And then he comes back to the ship
Maybe
and
that has connotations we're supposed to think about.
maybe.
It made me think of Queen Elsa. So I'm sorry.
And so he comes back to the ship and he has tons of fan mail and starts to get pretty high on his horse about how his sense of self-importance and signing autographs and singing duets of it with himself, which was really cool. I loved that.
Yeah, that's cute.
And then sending them with the little mini hologram things. And when the captain comes and he's like, and she says, "Are you using replicator rations to recreate blah, blah, blah?" And he's like, "Oh, Catherine."
Right.
And then she's like, "Are we on a first name basis?" She's like, "I meant captain."
She's great. Mm-hmm. I love her. And I didn't recognize her at first, so I had to look her up.
Orange is the New Black.
But Red from Orange is the New Black.
Mm-hmm.
And she's great in that. She's great in this.
Yep.
She was
She's great all
also
around.
in Warehouse 13. Have you seen the later seasons of that?
I've only seen the first season of Warehouse 13.
Never heard of it.
Oh.
It's good.
Get on it.
All right. If she's in it, yeah, sure. She's great in this as the captain, and she's so young, and she looks different in Orange is the New Black, but she's very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she gained a lot of weight.
Well, she's supposed to be like a middle-aged Russian woman.
In life, she's gained a lot of weight, I would say. I don't think she did that for that role.
She's older. She's like
past
75.
Sure. I don't mean to be discouraging
standards.
to her. If she's listening to this podcast, I love your work, Catherine. I don't know what your real name is, but...
Kate
Mulgrew.
Oh, there you go.
Mulgrew.
Very good.
Then he's going to do another performance, his final performance or whatever. Or after he goes through, like, maybe he's going to stay and blah, 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 whatever. Who cares? And then the Tinku, the woman, says that she's written something for him to perform, and he is physically incapable of performing it because his program matches real human physiology.
Yeah,
physiology. And she's like, well, we can just fix that. And he's like, well, but then it's not the same. Then it's not real. It's not art. You don't understand art. And she's like, whatever, I'll make my own. And so she makes her own, and it performs, and it's terrible.
But not before he thinks she's, like, declared her love for him.
Oh, right.
So then he goes back to the ship to hand in his resignation.
Right.
That's the word.
His resignation.
His recognition. His reconfiguration.
Rectangularation.
His Rumpelstiltskin. So he, and then goes back and finds out doesn't love him.
Yeah.
It needs, like, the complex subroutines that need soul and artistry. She's like, oh, I copied that too.
Right. Which made me happy, because artists are always talking about how they're unique and they need to...
John hates artists and also likes to talk about how great actresses have gained weight. One thing you all should know about John is he doesn't ever understand when he's being insulting to entire swaths of people.
Artists and females. That's like 75% of the population.
It's just how my subroutine is written. I can't.
Oh my gosh.
I can't help it.
So anyway, it performs the thing, and it is terrible.
Yeah, it's hilariously crazy.
It's real bad.
Yeah.
But instead, he sings Rondine al Nido, and the captain cries.
I wanted to cry. It was so beautiful and so well acted. Like, I felt so bad for him when he goes back to her because he wants to be with her. He's broken off all these relationships for this, and she's like, oh, I just made a new you.
Yeah.
And it was so sad. I felt his situation so much.
Yeah, I really wanted him to be like, what was that whole 1 + 1 talk?
The simplest equation.
It was, yeah. It would have been good if he had referenced Dumb and Dumber. He's like, what was that whole 1 in a million talk?
Talking about well acting within singing, he has a quote that's pretty cool. It says, prosthetic makeup, Robert Picardo has a quote, prosthetic makeup is very constricting to wear. The actors who are most successful in it are willing to be very expressive to make the makeup look real and move real. Working in makeup is more emotional acting than regular acting. Like you're singing an aria. You let it invade your whole body. So, yeah, he's an interesting guy.
Yeah, I felt it, and I bought her crying. It wasn't like one of those things where you see someone crying after a performance, like in a show, and you're like, well, they had to make them cry because they're connected or whatever, but I didn't feel it. I did feel it. Mm-hmm. I loved it and thought it was beautiful. And the other guy was horrible. You stupid Komari. Just don't see real value.
Yeah. Okay, so the last part of the episode, basically your culmination of Act 3, is the Doctor singing his big song, and then they trot out this new hologram, which supposedly is new and improved and can sing all the nonsense that the one lady composed, I suppose. It kind of sounded like she threw a bunch of notes at a wall and made
I think that was because it was from a fractal pattern, but yeah.
Oh, right, of course.
It was supposed to sound edgy and new age.
Well, and when he reads it, he's like all impressed, and then he's just like, I can't sing this. But then it happens, and it's like, you were impressed by that? Because it is pure randomness.
Yeah, it is. And then, like, everybody's all in, like, during the song, they all get up and start clapping, and, like, during the middle of the song while it's still going on, and just, like...
Yeah. And the doctor in the background hangs his
Right.
head.
With
so
his
sad because
clown
he
costume still.
Killed it. Oh, it's,
I wanted to have, like, a...
No. He's no. He was in a suit at this one. The clown costume concert was earlier.
Yeah, the Rigoletto part was just him.
Oh, you're
this
right.
was his fight for a well one where he's wearing tux with tails.
I remember now.
Yeah. And then that brings us to my favorite line when he decides to go back and he goes to the captain and asks to be reinstated. And she says, "So you've taken off your tails and put them between your legs."
It's so good.
Love it.
So good.
A+ writing.
Mm-hmm.
That is a great line.
They write that line, and then she turns to Mr. Paris. She's like, "Commander Paris, go to 45 on the reverse polaron fluxy doohickey."
What?
I mean, it's juxtaposed good writing with, like,
Oh, okay.
sci-fi nonsense, you know?
Doohickey.
The partial mass modulator.
Gigahertz, watts, bytes, pints.
Pints. I want information to be measured in pints.
Gigapints.
Oh, yes.
Or whatever this one, what is it? Tetrapints?
Oh, it was...
It was either Tetra or Terra. I can't remember which one they used. I think it was
Tetra.
Terra. Oh, really? Tetra? Okay.
We had a whole conversation about this earlier.
Right. But it's even
very
more
confusing.
because they use a trinary system. So dumb. We use 0, 1, and the Batman symbol.
So, Josh, do you remember our restaurant idea that we were having about it was going to be a hospital and stuff? Can we have the bar part of the restaurant serve drinks in Tetra pints?
It's just 4 really small glasses taped together.
This is a Tetra pint.
You got to drink it with a funnel.
I assumed all of your alcohol would just come in drip bags.
That's true. Just intravenous.
Yeah, but
Less tasty that way. Sorry.
Yeah. Here in Korea, it was a fad last summer. It may not be a fad this summer. Who knows? Fads in Korea are like the fastest thing I've ever seen. But nitro ice cream, like nitrogen
like
ice
Dippin' Dots?
Is that what they are?
Yes, it's like Dippin'
think
Dots.
it is.
That's how they make them.
Okay. Well, basically, what this was it's just cooled by liquid nitrogen, but it's not like Dippin' Dots where they have the cream and stuff and they mix it up in a cup and then they just like shoot nitrogen at it while they're mixing, basically, so it cools down really, really fast. But then what they do is they scoop it up and they put it in, like, the restaurant itself was called Ice Lab, and so your ice cream came in like a if you were just eating it in the store, it came in like a beaker.
Huh.
And then, like, whatever they like, if it was like chocolate ice cream or like chocolate cherry or whatever, they would put or fudge or something. They would put the liquid sauce or whatever in a syringe and stab the ice cream with it, and then hand it to you, so you could like inject your ice cream with the sauce.
Wow.
It was really
I
it was
love
really
that
fun.
idea.
That
It
is
was really,
cool.
really fun. And the entire place was decorated like a lab and had all kinds of beakers and whatnot everywhere.
Cool.
It was awesome.
We've got one of those here, but
I
it's
love
not
places like
a
that.
lab
Wait,
theme.
really?
We have a place called Twisted Java, I think, isn't it, or something like that. They put ice cream and coffee together and freeze it. It's delicious.
Oh, cool. Interesting.
That sounds good, but it sounds much less interesting.
Well, it's not thematic, but I bet it's tasty.
Yeah, I bet it tastes good, but is that really what matters?
Not to Kayla.
Well, I mean, presentation is 90% of food,
Yeah, right? I was a kid who freaking loved, what was that restaurant with the jungle?
Oh, the one in Colorado?
I think it's everywhere. I think it's
I
a
think it
chain.
is everywhere.
Rainforest Cafe.
Yes, the Rainforest Cafe.
I was the kid who loved Rainforest Cafe. Theme restaurants are not something you should go to all the time because their food is often terrible.
Right.
But, oh my gosh, I if I ever dream about doing a restaurant, it's always got a theme to it, and it's like all in on that theme.
Was the Rainforest Cafe, was that the one with the big like waterfall and pool in the middle, and they would do like dives and stuff off of it?
Oh no, that's
a
the one in
Mexican
Colorado.
restaurant in Colorado.
Yeah, is that Casablanca or something stupid?
No, it's Casa Bonita.
Yes,
Yeah.
Casa Bonita.
Yeah, that place is nuts. It always reminds me whenever I watch Parks and Rec, that episode where Tom gets a divorce and they go to that dinosaur-themed restaurant, and everything is dinosaur-themed. Mm-hmm. That was so good. And Leslie's trying to make puns, and she's like, "I'll take the pork chop, medium roar." And he's like, "So medium rare? No, medium roar." Legally, we're not allowed to call the meats puns anymore. I love that show.
Yeah,
Why
talk
didn't
about
that
good
show?
writing,
Why didn't that
that
show
whole
have
show.
a musical episode?
I don't know. I want to review it though, just because I want to watch it.
We could probably do that episode where they have the Pawnee, like the Harvest Festival, where they have all those different bands and stuff play,
There you go.
and then they give that tribute to Lil Sebastian.
I just want to go. I fell into the pit.
You fell in the pit. We all fell into the pit. I love it.
So on Chapel Hill, on the UNC campus, okay, you bleeped out where I live in the first episode, which was worthless because it's in my Twitter. It's in my.
I wondered about that.
It's like I live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Ta-da! But anyway, on campus, there the student area where the undergrads all hang out is called the Pit, and I was giving some friends a tour of campus one time, and I was like, "Oh, let's go over to the Pit," and then all day we were just singing "I fell into the pit," and I was so surprised no one had ever made that pun before, and
funny.
I wanted to go play that song in the pit. You fell into the pit.
Hi everyone. We are Mouse Rat. No. We are Scarecrow Boat. No, never mind. We're Mouse Rat. Mouse Rat rules. I fell in the pit.
Bye,
Sebastian. That's such a good
Missed you in
song.
strangest fashion.
Saddest fashion.
Saddest or strange?
Saddest.
Oh, yeah.
So this was a good episode.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Star Trek.
I tend to really enjoy the Doctor-centric episodes. Mm-hmm. Just because I think his character's super interesting. There's one that I really like where he gets stolen by this guy, this alien who has the ship that flies in, and his special phaser will cut through shields and also transport stuff out at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so he steals the Doctor's not mobile emitter. That's a different time. He steals the computer
sonic
core.
Screwdriver.
Yeah, the sonic screwdriver. His computer core, his computer matrix or whatever, and sells it to this big hospital planet thing. And he has to work at this hospital planet. And it's all the hospital is tiered, so the really nice people the really rich people get stuff on the top floor, and they get the best care, and everybody's dying down below, and he's trying to figure stuff out there, and that's a great episode.
I feel like Star Trek really kind of missed the boat in terms of how computer programs work, and I know that they were trying to say the Doctor's unique and we can't make multiple Doctors just to solve problems, but that would have been a really interesting spin-off episode or something, to realize that they could just reboot with a new Doctor and move on and never have to go save him, and that program would have been in that hospital for the rest of his life.
Right. And I think part of it is that they don't have a backup of him, is the whole thing.
Right, and they talk about him being too big or something like that.
Yeah,
it's not
this program's
a good
too
explanation.
complex.
They wrote themselves into a corner, and then, they were like, oh, we need a reason for why we don't actually do the obvious thing.
Yeah.
Right, because they actually do, in one episode where the Doctor goes somewhere else for something, I can't remember what, Tom and Harry try to make a new Doctor, and that turns out disastrous.
Oh, that's right, yeah. They just boot up the Mark 1 or something.
Right. And there's
They should just ask the Komari, because they did it in this episode, and it looks exactly the same.
Yeah, they really should have had a secondary backup, just, take the little one. Wouldn't that be great? If they had the adventures of the little doctor running around the ship. Guys, help!
I love the little doctor.
Actually, there is an episode where there's a problem where the doctor keeps getting shorter and shorter.
That's right.
Yeah, and then he eventually is like a tiny little guy trying to stand on a chair to talk to the captain. It's really funny.
Yeah.
It's like when a comedy show does something and the obvious answer is The Simpsons did it first. Like when you try to think of like a plot point for Star Trek, it's like nope, they've already done it.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yep. Very true.
No wonder they have to make up new terms because they've already used
them. Yeah.
everything. Okay, well let's. Can I present my gift to you?
Yes.
Maybe. Is
I've done something in preparation for this.
Wow.
Is it a
Do
horse? Are you Greek?
Is it made of diamonds?
It's not a horse. No, it is not a physical thing. I went to YouTube and read the comments on different on different clips from this show,
Okay.
and I have some of them to share
Excellent.
with you. Doesn't that sound fun?
It sounds great. Go for it.
Yeah. So, I have sacrificed myself for your happiness. Okay. So they had some words to say, like, about the doctor, because one of the big deal clips was him singing that last song, which, again, so beautiful.
It's great.
However, Keroro fan says his lip cinching needs work. Paul Octave Hebert or Hebert or something.
You pronounce it like a Mennonite.
Yes, I did. Okay. He says, Italian, the language of Napoleon and of the arts. I weep for the fact that this great language is not spoken by the greats of the world no more. Sad winky face.
Oh, Napoleon. The famous Italian.
Yeah.
I think he probably
Yeah.
is confusing Napoleon with Neapolitan.
Well, no, this was a Napoleonic song, right? Wasn't the song
It was
about...
a Metropolitan ballad.
I think it had something to do with Napoleon. Everyone in the comments seemed to think so.
Okay.
But they had a big, long discussion about, like, Napoleon was Italian. No, he was French. He was Corsican. It's different.
Wow.
There was a big flame war. But they also had some words to say about the Komari.
Oh.
The person, Last Iliad King, said, wow, last few seconds of the video, did you see the aliens' faces when they clapped? ... What freaking assholes. They wouldn't know music if it... Big, long ellipses, line, parentheses, insert rude comment here.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. You too.
Daniel S.
Oh.
I know, I love it. Daniel S. goes, and I hope you guys understand this because I don't really get this reference, but he said, they're like Pac-Leds, only with plastic surgery and the Atkins diet.
That's actually a really awesome comment.
Yeah, it is.
Good on you. What was that? What was his name?
Daniel S.
Daniel S. You are my hero.
He gets the YouTube subscriber award today.
Yeah, for sure. So the Pac-Leds are a very famous race from TNG that they're super stupid, or they seem stupid initially, but then it turns out that they really are stupid.
Yeah.
They're just maniacally stupid. They steal Geordi to help them fix their engine or something.
Yeah, they've got high technology because they steal it and they shoot things really quickly. They annoy Picard in several episodes.
Yeah, but their go-to line is like, "We are Pac-Leds. It is broken."
Yep.
It is broken. It's really funny.
Well, apparently he thinks that the Komari are as dumb as them, which is not at all true.
No, but
these are not comparable races. I mean, let's be honest.
No, they're. I think what he's saying is like their level of social intelligence is about the same.
Right.
Okay. Well, then, but Trier4952 just calls them arrogant little worms.
Goodness.
This episode suffers from you knowing where it's going the entire time. So the people themselves weren't actually...
But isn't that the majority of Star Trek episodes? Like, there's not a whole lot of predictable twists, are there?
Yeah, I don't know. The good episodes do, obviously. But you're right. There are a lot that are, you see the moral coming before they hand it out to you.
Oh, yeah. And, like, every episode of Star Trek wraps up in the last 7 minutes.
Right.
Like, it's...
Yeah.
It comes down to the wire, and then it's just like, oh, episode over.
I remember watching some episodes of TNG, and it was the whole... Like, it was like 6 episodes in a row where, like, the conflict was... It's an incurable disease that was, like, taking over the whole ship. Like, that was always the conflict. They really like the doctors to be like a big part of the plot.
Oh yeah,
Right.
every single doctor has been a huge character in all of them. Mm-hmm. And they've been consistently some of my favorite characters. Like, I love Dr. Bashir from Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm.
Bones is obviously so awesome from the original series. And I think my least favorite is Dr. Crusher. She's just a little boring. But the Doctor...
well, she had to play Mother,
season,
and that's kind
that's
of lagging.
True. That's tough.
Yeah.
Who, Dr...
But I like Wesley Crusher.
You are the one Star Trek fan who does.
Yeah. I don't
really?
even think Wesley likes himself.
No.
Wait. Oh, is this the thing?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of dorky and young, and they don't give him...
And badly written.
Yes.
Very poorly written, very poorly drawn.
Oh.
Terribly.
All right, well, I retract it.
Terribly
I retract my statement.
Costumed. Like, just absolutely horrifically costumed.
Well,
just go to YouTube and just search for Shut Up, Wesley.
Oh.
It's the best.
Okay,
I'm
maybe
not
I'll bring
even
you the comments on that.
I'm not even thinking of a specific video. Like, I just know there is a good video named Shut Up, Wesley.
Right, well, because Captain Picard says that at one point, so...
Right, yeah, exactly. Shut up, Wesley!
Oh, that was a good impression.
Get off the bridge!
Yeah. Yeah, like, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4... Shut Up, Wesley Marathon, Star Trek.
Nice.
Oh, marathon? Oh,
Shut Up, Wesley Remix. I love Picard. Picard is my favorite, absolutely and completely my favorite character.
Agreed.
And not really because he's the best. I mean, he is a very, very well-drawn character, but, man, Patrick Stewart just acts the F out of that character.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. He's so good.
So let's talk about the end of this episode, yeah? Is that it?
We did.
That's
We're done.
it?
Yeah, that's
We're
pretty
over.
much it. Well, I mean, the
Wow.
captain is like, hey, dummy. And then the doctor's like, okay. And then he goes back to the... It has a nice little ending, though. Like, so he goes back to the sick bay.
Mm-hmm.
Why I couldn't think of that word. He goes back to sick bay, and I like how it ends. It just it fades out to him singing "Someone's in the Kitchen with Dinah," and it's great.
I've been working on the
Oh,
railroad.
Oh,
is
is
the
it?
name of that song.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was.
It's not someone's in the kitchen with... That's just a stanza.
Right.
It's now I know why I like in the list of the song list, the soundtrack. At the end, it's "Someone's in the Kitchen with Dinah," uncredited, written by American Folk Song, performed by Robert Picardo. Like, it has both "I've Been Working on the Railroad" and "Someone's in the Kitchen with Dinah."
Okay, I am like 100% sure that that's the same song,
It's the first and second verse, yes.
Interesting,
and that it's called "I've Been Working on the Railroad."
Agreed. But
only because that's the first verse. What if you leave off that verse?
but that's not
Well,
the part
it's
that I
still
was...
the same song.
That's not the part that I was hoping we'd talk about. It was...
Let's all sing "Someone's in the Kitchen with Dinah." Ready, go.
I've been working on the railroad.
All right.
Whoa. Okay. On Wikipedia, it's called Levy Song.
Oh, what? Levy
we're all
Song?
wrong. All of us are wrong. Wait, this is not the same thing. These lyrics are: I once did know a girl named Grace. I'm working on the levee. She done bring me to this sad disgrace.
That's a different song.
Working on a levee.
Weird. Yeah, that's got to be a different song.
This is like the proto-country song. I used to have a dog named Bill, a-working on the levee. He ran away, but I'm here still, a-working on the levee.
That sounds like a terrible song.
I lost my dog.
I imagine it's how you sing it, not the words themselves.
Yeah. My goodness. Okay, so...
I was trying to get back to the fact that when the Doctor comes back in, he has a talk with Seven of Nine.
And it's
right.
sweet and cute.
Oh, that's a great part. Yes, well, John, why don't you describe that? Because that's a really good part.
Sure. I have a question.
Yeah?
Is she capable of love?
Yes, very much
Yes.
so.
Because I think she's in love with him.
Well, they share...
They have a really cool relationship.
Yeah, I think it's more of a respect. And if she wasn't so hot, maybe they would get together. But...
Wait, how does her hotness prevent them from getting together?
From a writing standpoint, not from an actual literal standpoint, but from
I
a
still don't get it. You gotta explain it to me. I still don't get it.
From a point of like people looking at a common, like the writer saying, "Oh, we could put them together," but people would just be confused about it.
Have you ever watched any sitcom ever? Everyone's okay with that.
Right.
But this isn't a sitcom. It's not that. That's part of the joke of the sitcom is the weird guy is married to the hot woman, but he's dumb, but sweet, but still really dumb. And the lady is just like, "Oh, you dummy, but I love you."
I don't think her
'cause I'm
hotness
written
is the
that
reason. I don't think her hotness is the reason. I think.
Okay.
I mean, neither of them are actually real people, or like she was a real person, right?
No,
she's a real
she's
person.
definitely a real person.
Don't write me emails saying I'm discriminatory toward the Borg
or the women.
Well, that's part of her deal is that like she was so young when she was assimilated that she never had time to mature emotionally properly. So like she has emotions, but they're very, very like
so
pushed
that's
down
why they
and
can't get
stunted
together.
and
It's not
mild.
because she's hot. I don't understand. That is a much better explanation.
Well, no, actually, that's
Yep.
the point that they share. The reason they're attracted to each other is because they're both forced out of society by their differences.
I still don't buy that it's their
That's
hotness.
a really good point.
Okay,
But,
well, watch some more
we've had
sci-fi.
enough- We've had enough Kayla's Feminism Corner. We've had enough of that in past episodes, so we're going to not do that this time.
Okay.
Except for me to say that, John, you can't just comment on a woman's weight, like, just out of nowhere and say, like, when I tell you someone's pretty, and you just say despairingly, she got fat, though. You can't do that. That's a no-no. I was talking about Kate Mulgrew, and I was saying, she looks different, and orange is the new black. And John was just like, she gained a lot of weight.
She just got old. That's just getting old.
And also, it doesn't need to be said. Like,
Right. What was I going to say? Oh, I love...
Well, maybe I will just say real quick that I will make this disclaimer about John, is that he never intends to be insulting. He often is insulting, but he never intends to be like insulting to huge swaths of people.
It's not hurtful.
This is why you
We
have
just-
me on.
Not malicious.
I mean,
You just have to laugh at him.
it's for the ratings.
The angry mobs that will descend upon.
He's our shock radio aspect of it.
He's our Howard Stern.
Johnny Tim and the Fox.
No.
What was I going to say? Oh, I really like the Doctor and Seven's relationship.
Yes.
To be a little bit spoilery, he does kind of... No, not kind of. He does fall in love with her. And she does not reciprocate.
Gosh, she's hot.
They have a very... They have a very
What?
mentor-mentee relationship. And it's really, really cool. And he gets over it, and he moves past it. And that's another part of his growth as a individual that they deal with, and it's really, really cool. And she goes through similar stuff as well. So yeah, I like their relationship a lot.
It's kind of like, Josh, what we were talking about a few episodes ago about how, like, you never really see a genuine male-female friendship like in TV. It's always goes into the territory of, well, they have to explore the romantic side because life wouldn't exist this way. And it's like,
it's basically the entire plot to When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
Is the discussion of that.
Yep.
Or the exploration of that. We were talking about it in terms of Xena. Like, we were looking at the relationship between Xena and Gabrielle and how close they are without it being explicitly romantic really at any point.
Yeah, and like how we support both. Like, I think it's great that, like, you know, there's the discussion veers into like their possible relationship, but also it's also nice to just see like two women being friends and like working through issues together, but being like so close like that.
Blowing the Bechdel test out of the water.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that's the end of Kayla's Feminism Corner.
John, do you want to run us through that scene? Like, what happens? Why it's so sweet and awesome?
Sure. It's the fact that the Doctor has come in to... Well, previously in the episode, they had a little falling out. And so when the Doctor came back with his coattails between his legs, he pretty much thought that the relationship was over between them, and 709 handed him one of the pads that was a fan letter, one of his last fan letters, and turned out to be from her. So that was heartfelt and cheesy all in one.
Yeah. Yeah, she's consistently his biggest fan and biggest supporter and defends him to the captain a lot. Yeah. Like, there's one episode where 7 of 9 is like, you encourage me to explore my humanity and do that. Why aren't you doing that with the Doctor? And she's like, well, he's just a machine. I'm like, and she says, if you still only think that he's just a machine, then you don't know him.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow,
it's a really great scene.
So I don't love the idea of, like, really trying to humanize a character that isn't human. Like,
right. I get you. On a personal level.
You can explore some things like that really well, but, like, he is a piece of technology. And the fact that he wants to be taken so seriously as a human is kind of ridiculous to me. But in instances like that, where he interplays with her so much, like what you just described to me sounds awesome. That sounds, like, cool and profound and great.
Yeah, I really enjoy watching it in a TV show, but if it were actually part of real life, I'd be like, no rights for you.
Yeah.
And if you're sad, we'll reprogram that out of you.
Yeah.
Right, and like that, and that's the thing. Like, I don't think that Star Trek is really doing. They're not trying to do it literally. They're basically they're like, we want him to be a human who is a different kind of human. Like, basically, like a human who's been downloaded to a holographic matrix or whatever.
Josh, it's like Bender except done well.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
In fact,
what's wrong with Bender? No, don't answer that. Move on.
I hate Bender.
Oh.
Oh my God, I
love Bender.
Oh God.
I love you, baby. Shut up, baby. I know it.
All I wanted to do was kill all the humans.
I love that joke.
Sorry, Kayla.
What was I going to say?
All right.
No. Oh, I remember. There's this one episode where the Doctor, and it's such a great episode. Again, a Doctor-centric episode, and it's great. Where he keeps finding, like, these weird little hints that there's a weird conspiracy. Like, he finds he's done a bit of finds a bit of microsurgery on Harry. And it's like, where did this come from? I don't know. Do we have an intruder? Where was this? Blah, blah, blah. But then he finds out that it was like, it looks like something he would have done. And he keeps finding all these little bits and pieces and thinks there's a conspiracy, and eventually catches the captain deleting some of his memory files. And so they're like, he confronts them and is like, what's going on? And she's like, listen, there was this thing happen where you were faced with two identical triage situations, right? Where you could treat one or the other, and they were both exactly the same. There was no probability that one would turn out better than the other. It's only that you have to make a decision, basically. And he chooses to operate on Harry because he knows Harry more. And so he does that, but then it sends him into this crazy, like, feedback loop where he goes a little bit crazy within himself, and so they're like, you weren't doing any, like, we couldn't fix you, so we took those memories away from you to heal you, basically. And he's like, you had no right to.
So cool.
Yeah, and then it gets into this whole thing like, you had no right to do that. That's like operating on me without my permission. Why couldn't you think that I would figure it out or go through it or work through it on my own? And so they eventually just do it. Like, they stick him in a room and they just watch him around the clock run through these different arguments against himself, and he eventually comes to the conclusion that it was it's a very human decision that he made.
Yeah.
And it's a really great episode.
That's
It's not exciting. It's not
No.
momentous,
I love
but
it.
it's really well thought out.
That is the type of TV I like. Mm-hmm. Way too existential for the normal populace.
Star Trek has a lot of those, but you tend to, like, a lot of people tend to miss them because of the camp. There's a lot of camp in Star Trek, but if you push through the camp,
right.
there are some real gems in there.
It's like Twilight.
Just like Twilight.
Yep.
Push through the camp.
Yeah.
That is really the theme of season 1.
Yeah.
Just push through the camp. Just push. It's gonna be hard.
Get to know the characters, push through the camp, and then
rewards.
Yep, Bella turns into a really strong female character.
Yeah, she does. Okay. What else can we talk about? Do you got things what else can we talk about?
we can. There wasn't any dancing, so we can skip the DDR dance report. But musically, it was all opera all day long, except for those little folk ballads.
Yeah.
And I was fine with that. Yeah, and a jazz song. And I was fine with that. Like,
yeah.
As much as I don't want to sit through a whole opera, I love opera. Like,
Aww.
I don't know. I like watching opera online in my own house.
You should
where I
go,
can be like,
and then you should
stop.
comment some of these YouTube comments, like, his lip cinching is really bad.
Live, like if I look at it live, it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
His
you
lip cinching needs work.
Pavarotti, cinch your lips.
Cinch them more. What did you think of the music, John, as a person who I assume doesn't watch operas on YouTube?
This is true. But I feel that opera, especially in movies or video of any kind, is really powerful because I don't know the words. And so movies like Shawshank Redemption, it adds to the emotion of what's happening on stage. So I would never go...
And you're not distracted by the lyrics.
Right, exactly. And it seems more beautiful because I assume that the lyrics are really, really good when if I heard what they were saying, I'd be like, oh, well, that's not inspiring. But...
right.
I just assumed that...
Oh, no, he's got my sandwich!
Right.
Now, come on.
But automatically, anyone that has a foreign accent is smarter than Americans. So that
right, yeah, we're trained to believe that.
Exactly.
Not about all accents, guys. Not about
that's
all.
True. That's true.
And every assumption is wrong.
Yes, I know, and that's why I like not knowing the words to the opera when they're put in context of something I can't understand. But I would never go and see one in a theater, I don't believe. Even though I really like musicals and other theatrical productions.
I like going to like an operatic review where they cut it down, and it's like an hour and a half with a 10-minute intermission, and it's just, picking out the good pieces, and each piece is blocked and acted, but it's not a full production,
Yeah.
And it you have the highlights and stuff. Those are great. I enjoy those a lot.
It's like the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I
read the opera condensed.
And I really feel like I enjoy music a lot until I'm sitting watching one of those So You Think You Can Sing shows. And Rachel is like tearing up next to me because the performance is so beautiful, and I'm like, yeah, that's respectable. They should win. And
America's Kids Got Singing.
Exactly.
Yeah, good themes.
Yeah, I
A+
enjoy
theme.
it. I enjoy it.
It was good.
And that was really him singing for Beefy Boy 2000,
All right, well,
whatever his name was.
There was a flame war in the comments about this.
Oh.
You need to look up and verify, because he might have been singing in the other songs earlier in the episode, but in that last very climactic one, I don't know if he was singing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, definitely.
Can you look it up?
Yeah, how do I look up the
internets?
Let's see here.
Let's see. Yep. Robert.
While he's looking that up, I obviously know that they did not record the audio at the same time.
Right. Because his lip cinching was so...
It was bad.
Of course, the lip cinching.
It was bad lip cinching. But that's common for all TV and movies.
Right, yeah. I mean, you have to do it. I mean, like, that's why everybody was so off their rocker about Les Mis.
Yeah.
When they're like, what? They do it live? And I'm like, hey, maybe shouldn't have done that live.
We could have a whole conversation about if that was a good idea or not. But I think
it worked.
I think overall it was.
Okay, so I found that someone said that at a con he said that last song was not him.
Oh.
Like
Okay.
Robert Picardo said that the last song, and specifically because they wanted that specific song, and it's a tenor song and it's out of his range.
It did seem like he was kind of stretching, and I don't know what his range is, but yeah.
I think he's a barytenor.
Okay.
Is that a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm
just
you
gonna
might
believe you.
You might call it a low lyrical tenor, I suppose. But he's not a professional musician. So I think his range would probably fall into like a small range lyrical tenor.
But I really like that he is actually a singer, because even though his lip cinching was so bad, I think I was able to get the emotion out of it because he was doing, things as if he were singing, he gets like a vein popping out of his throat, and he's like fully into the song as if he were singing.
Sure, and he might have actually even tried to sing it on stage.
Yeah.
To actually get that kind of emotion through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and worked for me. I was very moved.
Me
Loved
too.
It.
I thought it was great. I don't have a quiz because I left my notes at school.
No,
so
that's too bad.
Yes, but it's okay. We don't need a quiz. And I think actually, if I can remember correctly, we've probably answered a lot of those questions anyway, because they were all like weird trivia questions rather than reference.
We could ask. I've got one.
Okay, cool.
Weird trivia that I'm making up. The stacks of pads with his little singing professional person on it. How many of those were sitting on his desk?
Oh my gosh!
Whoa! Do you mean on his table when he was giving them out,
yes.
or on his desk when he gave them back?
No,
on
his table. You don't know how many are there on the desk because he just has the one left, right?
Right, that's
at the end.
I'm going to guess 4 terapints.
I'm going to guess 16.
Oh, I was putting the number at 9. Not that
but
many.
Nobody knows.
Not that many.
We don't know.
Well, no, that's why I made it up.
I'm going to look. I'm going to friggin' look.
Oh, man.
Because if it's 16...
We should have known, because he said, I'm going to make up trivia, but I thought he was just going to, pick a question. But no, he was just coming to make...
Literally just making it up.
Well, I can do that, too.
All right, go for it.
I can do that, too.
How many elephants are in this episode?
Well, 0. That's easy.
Nope. Wrong.
Really?
What?
How many?
There was 1.
And it was the awkwardness between the captain and the doctor.
It was the elephant in the room.
In the room.
Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
Wow.
Whee! I have elephants on my pants. I'm a little tipsy.
Okay.
Okay, I'm about to count them. Hold on.
Yeah, I was just pulling up myself here.
People, clapping, pause, and... Oh, wow, that's actually a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And 18 minus 5, 13, double 26, 31, I'm guessing.
Wow.
Is this like a
31.
jelly beans in a jar type of thing?
No,
like you
I'm
can't
actually
see it, or
I'm looking at them, and I can count one. I'm looking at them, and I can count one stack, and the other stack is just as high. So I doubled that, and then added the extraneous ones.
Mm-hmm.
So of the ones I can see, there's 31 stacked there.
Okay, so that was much higher than...
Plus or minus 2, I would say.
I'm glad that they noted the fact that Voyager didn't replicate those, didn't use their ration resources.
Yes,
for it.
I like that. They are actually pretty consistent with the allocation of resources and the limitation, like that they have a finite amount of resources.
Other than they have holodeck episodes, and that's food for a week. But
right. And they haven't. They keep saying that they only have like 31 torpedoes, but they keep shooting them, and they still have 31 torpedoes the entire season.
The others were just flashbangs.
yeah, bad on them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no frame of
Mind
reference.
bullets.
What else
Dead
can we
crew
do?
members.
Oh, ratings.
Yeah, ratings. I think we can come down to ratings, and then we can wrap up.
7.5.
Wow, that was all right.
7.5 out of 10 what?
Yeah.
Doctors. Little singing doctors.
Little singing I
Nice.
want one. I want one of those.
I do too. I love it. Your turn, Kayla. What do you think?
Well, I think Prince Michael of Seraphim, Third of the Trinity from YouTube said it best when he said, "Sometimes pushing yourself over the edge is just ... too much for any of us."
What?
So
That's not. I was expecting like a CSI Miami put the glasses on, but wow!
No.
Like comment.
Nope, very
But no, that was just a
existential.
dumb comment.
Yep. that had no reference to the episode at all. And also his name is Prince Michael of Seraphim, Third of the Trinity.
That's long to type in every time.
His
Third
his
eagle in the
handle
apocalypse.
Yes.
his handle was in Cyrillic. But anyway, yeah, so I agree with him, and I rate it, don't hurt me, 6.5 out of 10. 6.5 out of 10 ridges on a Komari forehead.
Very good.
Interesting. Okay. 6.5 ridges. That's
A lot.
I'm going to rate it 7 because I really, really like it a lot. I'm going to rate it 7 out of 10 fractals.
Yes.
You just go down, and there's just smaller and smaller 7s.
It's impressive.
It's not easy. Not easy to do. All right, plug-a-doos.
Plugs and shrugs and
Bugs and tugs and
bugs.
mugs of slugs. John, where can we find you, and what do you even do? Do you have anything that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, John, to plug your inventions. John's an inventor.
You can go to shellsmith.com. That's a real website. It's got nothing on it, and I do not track the number of views. So that would be a great place to find out more about me on the internet. I'm invisible on all of the major social networks.
Oh, there's something on here. There's an animation, John.
There's a what?
There's an
Animation.
animation.
Oh, well, sure. Yeah, there's a cool picture that makes you think that I'm gearing something together. I'm gearing up for a coming soon that's been sitting there for 3 years. Yeah, so in my spare time, I make things in my garage and build computers and play video games.
Well, do you have any of them to, like, promote?
No.
Oh.
Cool.
John is not going to be forthcoming about this, but John has all sorts of prototypes for, what are they called?
They're computer cases.
Phone and tablet cases.
Yes.
And
Phone
computer
and tablets.
cases.
Yeah.
Kayla, where can we find you on the internet?
Vix Kayla at Twitter. On Twitter. Kayla Vix on Instagram. I am not creative. You can email Kayla at podcastthemusical.com.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the places.
Awesome. Well, you can find me at josh@podcastthemusical.com or Joshua_Rhodes on Twitter. Good luck finding anything interesting there, because not even I finding anything interesting there. You can follow me on Instagram as well. Just search for me, Josh Rhodes. For more podcasty goodness, go to podcastthemusical.com, and there we have links for our RSS feed, our iTunes downloads, or you can just listen right there on the site too. You can find us on Twitter at podcastmusical, and on Facebook at facebook.com/podcastmusical, either of those two places. Facebook also has all of our links for downloads and such. Leave a comment if you'd like to give us some feedback. We do enjoy that feedback. And if you do use iTunes, please leave a nice little review and a rating. We enjoy that, and it's really, really helpful to us to get us more visible. So, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. Next time, we are watching and discussing Father Ted.
Do you guys know what that is?
Do you even know what that is? If you're
Irish,
Irish,
we're going to introduce you to this world.
Definitely.
I've got an Irish
know
coworker,
what it is.
and he loves that show.
Oh, great.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
We watched a Song for Ireland, a Song for Europe,
So good.
basically, episode. I think it's in season 1, but I'm not sure exactly where. But just search. It's on YouTube in its entirety. So if you want to look there,
we gotta tell them. We gotta. Hold on.
Okay. All right, Kayla's going to find it. But, if you go to YouTube and just search for Father Ted, A Song for Europe, it'll be right there, and you can watch the entire episode. It's where I watched it. And it's a great series. I really, really enjoyed the series as well.
Father Ted, Season 2, or if you're British, Series 2, Episode 5. That is A Song for Europe.
Very cool. Well, awesome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will see you
John.
next time.
Yeah, sure. Thanks,
John.
guys.
And thank you, John, for joining us.
Cue the music.
All right.
Oh.
Wait, that's wrong. That's the beginning one.
Oh, what is this?
It goes burp, 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 burp.
But it's different than the one. I really like the music you chose for when you come in and just like give a message. It's like
Oh, the very sexy jazz one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I save it just for me.
Oh gosh. You know, I'm gonna edit this episode and I'm gonna put in a message of me over that. Hey.
Nice.
Josh and Kayla, nights. Bye, everybody.
Bye.